Today's episode is sponsored by Dansoft Gamers. Dansoft Gamers is the leading distributor of video games and other consumer gadgets like the podcast microphone sets, ring lights, headphones, and affordable smartwatches, and many other cool gadgets. For these and more, visit their website at www.dansoftgamers.co. That is www.dansoftgamers.co. How are you doing, Sarah?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good.
What time is it at yours?
Time here it's 1:17 in the US.
In afternoon
Yeah,
or night?
it's afternoon.
That's good. That's better.
Yeah. I'm really good because Arsenal beat Tottenham, so that's the first thing.
Yeah.
It
was a nice one, a very,
Yeah.
very nice one.
Mujevale. My name is Bani Kibuka, and welcome to another episode of the Ugandan Ball Talk Show. I want to start with that, by the way. When did you start supporting Arsenal?
When I arrived in Uganda, I learned that you have to choose a team. It's either Man U or Arsenal. Mm-hmm. And since we have a Swiss playing at Arsenal, it was an easy choice.
Xhaka.
Yeah, Xhaka.
Yeah. That's
Did
good.
you see Arteta run after him yesterday?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Xhaka is like one of my favorite players. I don't know if you know a lot of Arsenal history, but like in recent, he had some issues with the fans a while back ago, like 2 years.
He got some red cards.
He got some red cards. People have not been happy about it, but I've always been on his side, no matter what. Like, yeah, sometimes he'll get a red card and it messes up the game, but I still love him. And now he's good and he's doing really good. But do you know that he has a brother and the brother is from a different country too?
Yeah, he plays, where is he? I know that he also plays, but I don't know which club he's at.
Yeah, I don't remember the club, but I know they're two brothers. And one time they were playing each other and they're all Xhaka, but they were playing for different countries. I think he told his story in one of the interviews, but I don't remember. But yeah, I wanted to start with that because it was funny to see that you loved Arsenal when you know. And it's funny you mentioned like when you come to Uganda, you have to choose what team you support, either Man U or Arsenal. And it's funny too that you said Man U or Arsenal because those are the two that have been there for long. Not Man City, not Liverpool, but like Man U or Arsenal. That's what you get.
It's like it has the most supporters. And depending on what bar you are at, you hear the screams for the one or the other. But I have friends who support other teams, so it has diversified a bit.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who support Liverpool, Man City, and
Chelsea.
Chelsea. There's a lot of them, but I'm really happy with Arsenal. I've been supporting Arsenal since 2004, so it's been a long time.
It's a real fan.
Yeah, real fan. I have over, I think I would say 65 Arsenal jerseys, like 65.
Crazy.
Yeah, I've been buying. I think every season I buy either 1, 2. This season I bought all the 3, and every year I buy like 3. So I have a lot of them.
The whole arsenal of Arsenal shirts.
Arsenal.
But you have to get up very early to watch those matches.
Yep, most times.
You wake up every time?
I wake up. If Arsenal is playing, I wake up like by 7 a.m.
Yeah.
I wake up and watch that. Sometimes when we have these daylight saving in America, we have daylight saving where clock goes back and stuff like that. So sometimes it's at 6 a.m. and then the other time is at 7 a.m. But yeah.
So 6 a.m. is in winter or is in summer?
I think that will be summer. Yeah.
Summer. That's a bit easier then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I watch them at home, so it's easier for me. I just wake up, walk to the living room. It's not like when I was in Uganda, you would have to go to a specific place to watch the game. But it's easier for me to just wake up and go watch it. So I have a lot of friends who are Arsenal fans in Uganda too. I miss it, and Do you love the environment when you go to watch Arsenal, like with a bunch of people?
Very much so. My favorite is like go to a place where there are only Man U fans with two of my best friends, and then Arsenal wins.
Yeah.
It's unbeatable.
Yeah. I'm planning to go. There's a town in the town where I live in the US. They have a place. It's like a bar where you can go and watch Arsenal. There's other people
Yeah.
that go there. So I'm planning to go and watch the Arsenal Man U game with other people, not just me in the house. I like to watch. I was planning to go watch Tottenham with like that, but I had some other things I was doing, so I didn't get a chance to do that.
So which one are you planning to watch there?
Manchester United versus Arsenal.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm gonna go watch, and
That's
I
perfect.
fingers crossed. I hope we beat Manchester United because I hate.
We have to. We have to. The shame is too big now.
Exactly. So anyway, I'm so happy that you accepted to be on my podcast and just wanted to sit down with you and have a chat. And that's usually what I do with other people. I created this to have a conversation with other people and share a word or two that people might like. Also entertainment, like people enjoying just watching a conversation. Would you mind introducing yourself to the listeners, like who you are and what you do?
So my name is Sarah Fluck. I am originally from Switzerland and I am a journalist. I mainly work for Swiss newspapers and I cover all of East Africa.
Okay.
Mainly based in Kampala, but the main work at the moment is out of the DRC.
When did you realize you're gonna go to Kampala? Like, what was the first time when you're gonna, and what was your reaction after that? The first time before you went there?
So I was living in the DRC in South Kivu, Bukavu, for a time, and then my newspaper called me back to Switzerland, and I always wanted to come back into the region, but living in the DRC was a bit difficult. Also, security issues were there. So I started traveling the region and wanted to look where I would want to live that is close to the DRC, but not the country. So I visited Kenya. I already knew Rwanda and Burundi. And then I came to Kampala and I just loved it from the first second. It was wonderful and I wanted to live there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, it's the place I knew the least about from before I was moving there.
Yeah.
I only visited for 2 weeks, but it had just such a good vibe and it felt more relaxed than Nairobi. Nairobi was very tense. Work-wise, I also found out that there are less international journalists there, so there's also less competition. And it was just, many factors that made me go there, but I'm happy with my choice.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on the intense in Nairobi because I just recorded a podcast with it was Fiona who studied in Nairobi, and I asked her experience in Nairobi, and she was talking about like it was intense, like everything is moving super fast, and I love my mom is Kenyan, so I used to go to Nairobi all the time, but I love the work ethic. I love the hospitality. I think the Kenyans have a good hospitality, and I think because I'm from Uganda, so I would say that, but they're intense. Like they do everything like fast pace. So you gotta like you don't have time to breathe. And I like that when you're describing Uganda, you use the word good vibe, which I get a good vibe when I'm in Uganda. And every time I come back to Kampala, that's always a happy moment to be there.
It's a bit the Kenyans have traits from the Swiss. They love to work.
Yeah, they're really
Work
hard work.
has a very high standard, and
Yeah. When you were talking about that, I remember that I didn't ask you about the World Cup, and Swiss was in the World Cup. Did you get a chance to watch World Cup?
Yeah, we even hosted. I hosted some friends here.
Yeah,
and we had like we watched the game Croatia. No, sorry, Serbia, Switzerland. And we had like Swiss cheese, melted cheese. We call that raclette.
Yeah.
And everyone had to taste. but yeah, no one really liked it, so we also had a lot of quotes.
Were the friends Ugandan or were they?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. A lot of
but
Ugandan.
I'm very proud of them for trying.
A lot of Ugandans don't like cheese, and this was my
Yeah.
experience when I moved from Uganda to the US. They have a lot of cheese, and I grew up not eating cheese, so I find it very hard. And like when we get together at parties in the house, or you go to somebody's place, they'll have cheese, like American cheese, like the Swiss cheese, or different kind of cheese, like, and people can eat it. But I tried it and I didn't really like it. I still don't eat it, but like,
it's okay. There's more left for me, so
yeah.
I will not force anyone
Yeah.
to eat it.
Speaking of that game, Serbia and Switzerland, that was an intense game. Like
Yeah.
you can say from Shaka was in trouble. Like everybody wanted a piece of him because he was just intense. It's always fun. There's a lot of things to do in Kampala. That's why I asked you about the World Cup, because football, they call it football over there. It's big. Like everybody's doing football, everybody's watching football. And when I was younger, we would sit in a room and just watch World Cup the whole day because like we didn't have like a lot of work. And
people know so many things. Like we do quiz night here once a week on Wednesday. And the Ugandans, they know things like who did what 1989 and who was, they have all those statistics. Like, really, I don't know. But they know all the facts. But have you been to a local game? That is crazy.
Yeah, the local games like in the area.
Yeah, so my friends are all Express fans, so we go
Okay.
to those Express games. But the first time I was there, there was like a fight, and someone came with a bottle, ran after someone else. There was a beating, like, it was intense.
Actually, I have a episode I record. I don't know if you've seen it. I recorded it with one of my friends who plays for Express FC now. He actually just
really?
moved. Yeah, he just moved from the US. He's now back to play for USFC. I'll send you the link of that episode. You can check it out. He's in Uganda now. He's back with the team and he plays for Express FC.
Then I shall see him soon on the field.
Yeah. Except soccer and no, now the Americans have made me start calling it soccer. Except football. Like what are some of the other fun things you like to do in Kampala?
I play a lot. I play every night, except for quiz night. I love doing quiz nights, but also just going to bars or coffees, meeting friends. I usually don't care where I'm at. I would just love the company that I'm at. Yeah. And shisha. Shisha is amazing here.
Yeah.
But it's so unhealthy, but it's just so nice. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. How long have you been in Uganda?
So I came April 2020, and then soon after I arrived, or maybe it was already there. So there was like the second lockdown, and I was there for a part of it, but I also my work asked me to travel a bit because there was just nothing we could do here. And then I also had to go back for a project to Switzerland. So I was in and out for like 6 months, but since January 2021, I'm fully here, have not left.
That's what I was going to ask you. What was your experience with the lockdown and COVID in Uganda? If you experienced that while you're there, talk to me about that, how the experience was and everything.
It was hard. It was especially hard because when you arrive in a new place and you cannot really go out and meet people, that is no fun. So it was hard making friends in the beginning. And also, I mean, people were really suffering. Crime rate was up. I think I was attacked like at this time. I've not been attacked since, but like people also in the places where we lived, there were a lot of robberies and break-ins, and people were just doing bad. Everyone was like, yeah. But then there was also fun things. You could go out and be in a bar and just hope that you don't get raided. And when you get raided, you had all those stories of running and hiding. And so looking back, we also have good stories to tell, but
Would you say
like,
now you've like launched a little bit of Uganda that you can find your way out within Kampala and do some stuff?
Like, I would, I know like the main areas. I use borders all the time.
Okay.
I can explain how to get to places. Yeah.
That's good.
If it's like in town, I know when it goes outside up to like Nigeria and Nansen, I would know. And then after that, it's getting hard.
Talk about Nansana because that's the road where I grew up. I grew up in Wakiso, right after Nansana.
Yeah.
And I had a little shop before I moved to the US. I had a little shop in Uganda, and it was in Nansana where I did all the business. One of the things I'm not really proud about for Uganda is the robbery, and you touched that a little bit. That's always my biggest worry, like somebody breaking into your house and like you would leave our house and somebody just breaks into that, which I mean they can do that anywhere in the world. Like I've had those stories in the US too, like people breaking your house, people steal something of your car, people steal a car or something like that. But that's one thing I don't really like. I have to be very careful. Like even I'm walking in Kampala, you have to make sure your phone is like really close in a bag or somebody is gonna steal it. So you just gotta be.
But it was like at this time, I mean, people were just really suffering. There was just nothing. There was no support, and I mean, I don't support any robbery, but I have an understanding of where if you don't let borders drive, if you don't let, and there was just no support, no food, nothing, and
it forces people into something that, like, even if somebody's not a thief, like if he's getting something, he will be forced into getting into that. Yeah, I could understand that. So,
and when they catch a thief here, the treatment, the treatment is hard.
I've showed some pictures to my friends here in the US. It's like when you catch a thief in Uganda, that's what they do to you. Like it's horrible. But I mean, people are angry too. Like,
all the hate comes out.
I understand both parties, like you say. Like some people they rob, and the people who robs, like somebody has worked hard to get whatever they have. Like somebody else robs, and then this person doesn't have a lot of money, and then needs something to rob. So either way, and I remember one time when we were in Uganda, we had just come back from Nairobi, and we took the buses. We just entered Kampala. And one of my friends was pulling out their phone to make a call for somebody to come pick us up. And the guy was just on a border and just took it.
They grabbed it. Yeah.
One of my brother actually chased the border so hard. He got another border and told him, hey, chase the border. So he chased them till they found the guy and he gave the phone back. So we were lucky.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
The new game that is played with those iPhones, you can buy them back. They end up somewhere in downtown and then they call you and you can give money and get it back. So
it's funny, I just seen somebody, just seen somebody on Instagram. They called them and they say, hey, we have your phone here. We can sell it back to you. And that was crazy. Yeah, it's really funny. The funny part was for me when I was in Uganda was like I would go to a restaurant. There was a restaurant I packed at, and some guys that came and unscrewed some parts from my car, like spare parts, and they took it to downtown. And then the next day we went to downtown to buy the parts for the car, and you found the same exact parts that they took off your car that you buy back and just put it back.
It's the same with camera equipment. Suddenly they offer a camera lens that has been stolen from you, which is exactly yours with the same mark.
Yeah. The other thing, you have a little bit of photography on your Instagram. Are you into photography? And when did you start taking pictures?
So it came a bit out of, the media scene is not doing very well at the moment. So there's not a lot of money for sending correspondents to do reporting. So more and more they asked us to do the text and bring back pictures. Sometimes even we have to bring back videos and audio. So my newspaper, they paid so I could do some training in photography, and that's how I started. Yeah.
Have you met some photographers in Uganda?
Yeah, yeah. There are some good ones here.
Yeah.
There are some really, really good ones here. Yeah,
And
it's inspiring.
yeah, there's and who? Moxie.
Someone with your name, Chibuka.
Yeah.
There's a very, very good photographer named Chibuka.
Yeah.
I think that's when I first wrote you on Instagram, because I thought you were him.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the other part is music. I wanted to ask you, I wanted to hear your take about Ugandan music and what do you think about it, and who are some of your favorite artists you like to listen to?
That is a hard question. So the thing is, it's like the same 20 songs that are played here, right? All the time. Mm-hmm. And it feels like home now. When I'm away from here, I miss those 20 songs. But I'm not big into music. I can tell you that Mona Lisa is probably my favorite song, but it's also the only one I can name.
And Mona Lisa is like a Nigerian song.
Yeah, it's not even Ugandan, but it's one that's played every night.
Yeah, it's funny because they play a lot of like Nigerian music. I love Nigerian music.
Burna Boy is like
Burna Boy. Yeah. I have Burna Boy in my phone playlist. I like a lot of Afro beats. I listen to a lot of Afro beats. Today's episode is sponsored by Dancesoft Gamers. Dancesoft Gamers is the leading distributor of video games and other consumer gadgets like the podcast microphone sets, ring lights, headphones, and affordable smartwatches, and many other cool gadgets. For these and more, visit their website at www.dancesoftgamers.co. That is www.dancesoftgamers.co. Have you picked up on Luganda right now? And what are some of the words you know how to speak in Luganda?
Oh, it's hard. So I had lessons and I gave up on it. Seriously, it is so hard. It is so hard. But I can do the Boda language. I can ask Sente Mecca and then Pola and all the things. This one is really helpful. Mm-hmm. And then they're trying to teach me on the pitch some things. There's a funny one. Katemba Munji. Too much drama.
Yeah, too much drama.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one to know. I think I will go back to lessons, but really,
I feel like it's easier to learn when you listen to it. Like that's a way you're gonna.
I think at the level, like if you would talk in a group, I probably get the topic that's talked, but speaking, the way you form sentences is very different. Yeah. So it takes you a long time to translate it. Me, I always have to translate English, German, and then German, Luganda.
Oh, so you speak German in Switzerland?
Yeah, so Swiss German is like my mother language.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very close to High German. It's as close as Luganda and Swahili, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I just recorded a podcast with she's called Melissa Malonji, and she lives in German and she speaks German. So I had her say a sentence in German. Usually when I host people from a different country, I like them to say a sentence. Then I'll use that because I like to have a different language in my podcast. So I'm gonna ask you to do the same thing. Like you're gonna say, "My name is Sarah Fluck, and I'm on the Ugandan Boy Talk Show." In German.
Ich heiße Sarah Fluck und ich bin in der Talkshow vom Uganda Boy.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. The other one I wanted to hear about was food.
Yeah.
How do you find the Ugandan food and what's your favorite?
It's amazing. It's amazing. Everything. I love local food. It's very good. I wish I could cook more. I learned chapati this weekend. I learned how to do chapati. I can do matoke, but my matoke is never as good as anyone else.
Did you learn how to peel it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's like paradise when it comes to food. I remember like when I moved here, my mom, she was really worried if I would eat enough And, then she came and visited and she put on weight. She ate so much and I had to laugh. So she had like this picture of how Africa is and what it would be like. And then it was just all food.
So she loves the food.
Yeah.
Most people, it's funny, most people when, like I have some friends from America that come and visit and they don't really like the food that much. I don't know if just Americans are just picky or what.
I would never say Americans are good with taste. No, it's really, I love it. The only thing I was missing was the cheese, but you can buy it here too. Yeah. And the thing with, if you have local food, like the 5 foods for lunch, you get really tired.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have to.
Have you tried
prioritize
kawunga?
Yeah.
Being in Uganda, I don't know if you were there during the election time. Were you there during the voting?
No, I came after. Yeah.
You came after?
Yeah.
What
it was intense.
That's what I was gonna say. What have you heard about it? Like from people telling you, what have you heard? Because I didn't know if you were there because I wanted to know what was that like for you, because even me not being there watching on the news was just intense, and just having the internet shut down. It was just like for a person like you who communicates to your family away.
Talking to the local journalists and the journalists who've been here, it was a very, very hard time for them. They had some persecution. They were stopped in their work all the time. And it was just, they were always searching for the violence, because you have to be where the action happens. But yeah, for them, it's a very rough time. And sometimes I think they're still a bit recovering from what they experienced during that time. Yeah. And I have not been here. What I've seen is like, it's now more relaxed than when I arrived here. So with every month, you feel like you have a bit more freedom in reporting. So yeah, you would have to talk to them.
Yeah.
For me, they're heroes. Yeah.
One of my friends, he's not a journalist, but he covers little clips of Ugandan concerts and shows and any events that's happening in Uganda. He records that. He's called Nyaika256 on Instagram, and he does a good job. Like, he's good content creator. But one time he said something, and he recorded a video that says Uganda is a middle-class country at midnight. Like during the day, the economy is hard, everything is hard, but at midnight, it's a middle class. Like the poverty just goes out of the window. What's your experience?
People spend the money they do not have. It's crazy.
I was gonna say your opinion of that, but yeah, they do really spend at midnight.
And it's crazy. They always want to invite you, and sometimes you think, hey, you don't have the money. Why do you do that? It's like this, trying to show off, and you're like,
Sometimes money comes somehow. I don't know how they get it, but they do, and they go have fun.
Always it comes to them. Sometimes last minute.
You cover about African politics. What do you think? What would you say from that? Like not only Uganda, just Africa in general. Like what would be your take about African politics, or something you can share about it?
That's a very open question.
Yeah.
I think it is very complex. If you look at the conflict in the DRC right now, it's just, there's so many actors, and there's so many. I think if I could talk from the media perspective, it doesn't get the coverage it deserves. Many of the people who talk about it do not really know what they're talking about. I mean, to me, it's crazy to see now how the war in the Ukraine is covered, and how the journalists can go into detail. And whenever I write about the DRC, I have to, first say, the country is in the middle of the continent. It's very big. No, you have to like give basics. And in the Ukraine war, they can talk about cities that are attacked or bridges that are attacked. So they can go into those details. And in African politics, you can not do that in the media. And that's very sad. For me, it's also very sad that there's no attention on several topics that are important. And I think we have to make it so simple, which it is never. It's never simple, the conflicts that are here. But for our readers in Europe and in the US, the way we have to write is like we're writing for little children, and that's sad.
Yeah, that's really sad. And even like me being in America, like that's still the perspective of people thinking about Africa. Like I don't even know how to explain it, but like, yeah, they take you as like backwards. They take you as like really, really nothing good comes out of there or something like that. And I've talked about that on the podcast quite a few times, which is not the case. But yeah, I'm glad you shared about that. When you decided to move to East Africa or to Africa, what was that the decision you made yourself? Like, I'm gonna go to East Africa and cover that, or like, I want to know how you made the decision to leave your life in Switzerland and just say, I'm gonna move to Africa and do this job.
So when I was a child, we moved around quite often. So I lived in different countries for a couple of months at a time. And while I was at uni, one of my professors, he knew that I was traveling quite a lot before. And he had like a little radio station that he was supporting in the DRC. And he asked me, we had to do a half a year of internship. And he asked me to do that internship in the DRC. So I said, yes, let me do that. And I went there and I just totally fell in love with the country. And I was so fascinated by the politics and the complexity of it. But I also had like this feeling of, I do not know enough to really cover the region. So I went back to Switzerland and I studied African politics afterwards in the UK. I did a master's just to get a bit more background. And that's how I got there. It was just by chance, actually, because this professor had this connection. Yeah.
That's good. And on your Instagram, and I don't if I ask you a question of something that you don't feel comfortable talking about on podcast, you let me know, and then we can cut that out because this is pre-recorded, and then I will edit it and then put it out there. So I don't want to get you in trouble or anything like that's fun and just. But there's a picture you posted, the survival of an attack by Allied Democratic Forces. What was it? What was that about? What's the Allied Democratic Forces?
So the ADF is a rebel group that actually came out of Uganda. It tried to overthrow Museveni at a certain amount of time. Right now, this group is in the DRC. They're hiding in the forest. And they're attacking a lot of villages, especially in North Kivu and Ituri. Those are two provinces. And I think that was in May. In May, I went there. I wanted to have a look because Uganda is currently helping the DRC in fighting against that rebel group. So I went there to see how those operations are moving on, how it's going. And it was then that I talked to many survivors who had survived attacks from those ADF rebels or who have lived with the ADF rebels for a couple of months or weeks. And I wanted to hear from them. For example, do they speak Luganda? Do they speak French? Do they speak Swahili? Like, what kind of people are they? How they're behaving? What are their motivation and so on? Yeah. So that was one of the survivors. And I mean, the stories are horrible. She has been attacked in a little village that has been burned down while she was walking with the rebels. She had to carry all the things that they stole from the village. Her husband, he was not strong enough to carry the things he was assigned to, so the rebels shot him in front of her. But then she was able to flee because the military came and freed her. So that's how she survived that attack. Yeah.
Those are some stories that gave me really sad. And I don't know if you've heard about the LRA, the Lord Resistance Army in Uganda. Actually, I recorded a podcast with one of the survivors from there. He was a young child. I don't know if you've listened to that one too. And he was captured when he was 8 or 12, and he was put in the group.
Into
To
the
go,
group, yeah.
yeah, to
Yeah.
go like, and they gave him a gun, and he was talking about, and he didn't go in depth because he was saying some of these things bring PTSD to his head, but he was just sharing about his journey. I just want to ask about that, and then the one in Rwanda, genocide in Rwanda, which was also terrible, and the one in Kenya, the post-election violence in 27. I was actually part of that. I was there when that happened, and I recorded a podcast about my experience and what happened when I was there. But yeah, those are some of the sad stories that I don't really like, and I don't want to bring them on the podcast where I want to have this podcast to be happy, but also not ignoring some of the things that are happening. But yeah, I'm glad you shared about that. So how do you balance your time to do your job and then find time to go have fun sometimes in Uganda?
It's a good question. No, I try to get up early and get some work done in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I often have to travel, so I'm awake for a couple of weeks at a time. But when I'm here, I always stop work around 5, 6, and then I go play soccer and have beer.
Oh,
So
you play soccer too?
yeah, every night
That
I
is
have
nice.
to.
That is nice. That is
Yeah,
nice.
no,
I'm
it's very
glad that
fun.
you said that. Yeah, I've had fun to just sharing with you and talking about, it gets me happy to talk to another person living in your country or the country where you're born, to just hear because like I think it's the same way when Americans talk to me, to just hear how I'm living in America from Uganda, like comparing that. But it's also fun to talk to somebody else who is living country where you're born and just hear their perspective of life there. Kind of relates to my life being in America when I'm not born in America. So it's nice to hear that. What would you say the
It's an
biggest
amazing job.
difference from between Uganda and Switzerland? How is there any similarities, and what's the different? I mean, there's a lot of things that are different, but like what sticks out to you?
Yeah, there are really many things, but I think the one I struggle with the most. There are two things I struggle with the most. The one is like the way time is perceived. So in Switzerland, if you're 2 minutes late, you send a text because you're 2 minutes late, which
Yeah.
is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a big thing. And I think directness. I really had to learn what phrases are used. In Uganda, people don't tell you no. So you have to hear it out of, if someone tells me we will see, I know it's a no, but I had to learn that. Yeah. Similarities, I think an appreciation for the culture, for their own culture.
Yeah.
I think Ugandans love Uganda,
Mm.
Switzerland, Swiss people love Switzerland. Yeah, I would
That's
say
that's
that's similar.
that's really good. That's really good, and I love that. What gets you excited about life?
Being with good people.
Yeah.
Yeah, having inspiring talks, sharing friendship. Yeah, that
That's
makes
really
life
good.
very.
The other question is, who would you like to see on my podcast next? And you're gonna have to connect me to that person. It could be somebody from Switzerland, it could be somebody from Uganda, it could be somebody from anywhere that you would want me to sit
I
down.
think you have to meet Chibuka
Yeah.
because for me, you two are like related.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, Chibuka would be a good one to meet. Yeah, he's very much into the breakdance culture, and he's just really an amazing photographer. Yeah,
Okay. All
him I
right.
would recommend.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be amazing to get connected to that. So yeah, Sarah, thank you very much for being on my
Thank you.
podcast, and had a
Thank
good.
you for doing it. It's an amazing project. I love listening to it.
Thank you. All right, just stay in touch.
You too. Have a good time.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye. Hey there, this is Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with a friend and recommend somebody to this podcast. Don't forget to leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. And also don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Join us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much and be blessed.